Hey, welcome to Two Doctors Homestead. My name's Daniel, and it's a beautiful day outside right now. You got my pigs in the background. They don't understand why I'm not in there giving them extra treats, but I wanted to sit down in the shade a little bit, and I was thinking about 2024, what we have to look forward to, from perhaps a prepper homesteader standpoint. Obviously the election's coming up, and to be honest, we haven't really figured out how much we want to talk about the election or get into the election or the politics of it. I do expect wall-to-wall coverage, certainly, of the upcoming election, this more so perhaps than many others. So we'll see how deep we go into that, but it is hard to ignore that next year is a major election, and with that comes with its own excitement, emotions, distractions, challenges, right? I said certainly wall-to-wall media coverage, this more than perhaps other elections, right? And part of that, I think, has to do with what's at stake, and I'm not so much saying capitalism versus communism or Marxism, socialism, Democrats winning, Republicans winning, right? That's sort of the same thing every election, but if you look at the two main candidates, whether you're a Biden fan or a Trump fan, it's no business of mine as an American. You should get out and vote for your team, vote for your guy. Maybe you don't like either one, and that's certainly okay as well, but I think it is fair to acknowledge, right, regardless of who you support, one candidate is potentially looking at impeachment. If you look at Biden, he is looking at potential impeachment hearings going into the election year. We don't know if that's going to happen. You're looking at allegations of corruption. You don't know if anything's going to come of that. And then you look at the other side, most likely contender is Trump, and he's in court, right? He's under indictment. He's in court. He could be in jail prior to the election. It's hard to say. I don't know exactly what's going to happen. I don't have a crystal ball. Right, getting attacked, I would have known that if I had a crystal ball. You don't know what's going on, so what you have to do is look at what might happen, right? And if you're a Trump supporter and he goes to jail, you're probably going to be really upset. And if you hate Trump, which people do, and he wins, you might be really upset. So I think, if nothing else, there's going to be a lot of upset people, right? So certainly something to keep in mind, whether that ends up materializing as protests, chaos, whatever it is, you certainly have to expect or prepare going into 2024, knowing what's going on, that there could be some chaos, right? There could be some disruptions, whether people are protesting and blocking your way to work or something worse, right? We've seen protests that get much worse than blocking the road, right, over the last few years. So it's something to keep in mind, certainly something to consider as you're planning your year, planning your year preps. We're getting ready for Halloween, we're getting ready for Thanksgiving, we're getting ready for Christmas, right? And if you look at Black Friday, that's the perfect time for any kind of online shopping. Regardless of who you buy from, you're going to see a lot of great deals, right? So to me, that's always a good time to kind of round out your preps a little bit. Look for some deals on some items you might have on your wish list. Just kind of check in here, making sure I got everything covered. But there's also, jumping back to the election a little bit, possibility of a third party, right? Or possibility of a candidate replacement. Is it going to be Trump versus Biden? Is there a third party? People seem very upset as well that there could be a third party. So I don't want to dwell too much on the upcoming elections, and I don't know how much we're really going to talk about it or cover it at all, right? We'll see how we feel going in and how relevant it is beyond palace intrigue, right? Whose team is going to win, but there could be a lot more than that. There could be violence, could be protests. We don't know what's coming on, right? Beyond that, though, beyond the elections, there's the possibility of lockdowns coming. We made a video on that. A lot of people have been talking about rumors of lockdowns and what that might mean to us. We've been through lockdowns before. Seeing that, right? That causes potential supply chain issues. You may not be able to get what you need. Could cause employment, economic issues for individuals if your job is impacted by lockdowns. So you certainly want to have that in mind as you're going into 2024. Are we going to be seeing new lockdowns? As I said, there's rumors or reports, maybe even more than rumors, of new pandemics coming, and new plague that's worse than before that might drive us into lockdowns. And there's a lot of controversy over why we might be looking at lockdowns, and some of that could be tied to the election, right? Anything goes in an election year, as each side is fighting to win, but also potentially fighting for their own freedom, right? If candidates are potentially facing jail time, they might fight particularly hard to win to avoid jail, right? There's a lot going on for that. Another one, of course, is war. We've been on the tertiarily involved supporting Ukraine in the war with Russia. Well, we're going into the second year. We're going into the second winter. Last winter was particularly mild, so things like gas shortages and whatnot that may have come from the war were more or less avoided because of a warm winter. It is possible we could be looking at a cold winter this year. Are there going to be shortages in not only things like food, but things like heating oils, gas, and those kind of things? We could be going into a difficult winter. And once again, as a prepper, you want to put that on your mental checklist and say, hey, it could be a difficult winter. Do I have what I need to survive a difficult winter? Do I have a good stack of firewood? Is it aged? Do I have extra heating oil, whatever it is you use to heat your house? Or do you have backup heaters like a propane heater or a Mr. Buddy heater, right? Any of those kind of heaters. You want to think going in that, hey, last winter could have been much worse than it was. This winter may be very cold. With the war going on, I don't see it ending anytime soon. That could impact supplies of critical things you might normally need or have available to you going into the winter. And then, of course, there's the possibility that it could extend beyond what, the current theater, the current environment where they're mostly fighting in Ukraine. So any kind of escalations could be bad, right? There's certainly a lot of people talking, theorizing about, hey, what happens if nuclear war, right? What happens if EMP? What happens if for this or that? And certainly as a prepper, once again, that should always be on your list, whether you're a prepper, whether you're a homesteader, or you just like being prepared, right? Is any of those, and we've done a bunch of videos around different scenarios that could happen, and certainly a lot of people have, but it comes down to having your basics covered, right? There are websites out there that do simulations of nuclear attacks, and I could drop a link if you guys are interested. If one person makes a comment saying, give me the link, I'll do it. You can know. It's knowable whether you're in a likely target area, say that if there was a nuclear exchange. Failing that, though, is you want to be prepared. You want to be prepared for anything, and I think 2024 is certainly going to be the kind of year where anything can happen, right? I think that's something good to keep in mind. That's probably going to be the battle cry of 2024 is be ready for anything. Another side is certainly economic, right? We've been through some hard economic times coming out of the pandemic, the inflation, interest rates going up. It has been a difficult economic time, and unfortunately, I'm not optimistic enough to suspect that 2024 is going to be any different, right? I don't see any indicator that somehow we're going to have a prosperous year as a country going into 2024. I wish we would. I wish everyone financial, economic prosperity, but it's entirely likely that things will continue as they are or trend worse, right? Which means the cost of food could likely go up. The cost of gasoline could likely go up. So in that sense, without going into debt, because debt doesn't help you out, it's a good time to prepare now, right? And we do the Prepper Pantry Pick of the Week series showing you low-cost food options, right, to build out your pantry. But if you haven't been building out your pantry, it might be a good time to do that. So especially going into 2024, where there could be more economic turmoil, right? Having food, you need food every day, or at least every few weeks. Hopefully you get food every day. You need food to survive. I'll simplify it there. You certainly need water to survive. Do you have your bases covered if something happens, be it economic or otherwise? There's a few months left in the year, right? We don't know what chaos might come or when it might start, but now is probably a good time to reevaluate what preps you might have or what food stores you might have. What's your pantry look like? Do you need to invest more into it? If you have more to invest in it, if you're not, certainly understand. I appreciate, sympathize, and I have been there before, right? Disposable income's not always a guarantee for everyone all the time, nor has it been for me, all the time. Sorry, felt like a little bug on me there. But if you can, it is something to think about, right? 2024 could be an economically difficult year, not just because of the war or the election. You see a lot of things moving around, a lot of things going on. Certainly BRICS is playing into that with a good percentage of the world economy sort of breaking away from us. That will affect our economy, right? The value of the dollar could go down, which makes things more expensive is what that means, and also makes things harder to get. And I would not expect everyone's salary to rise to match the rising cost of living, right? And that's what we're talking about, and that's what we're looking at, is you want to think about 2024 and say, hey, what can I do to prepare for potentially rising cost of living, shortages, those kind of things, economic issues, which could include, unfortunately, for some job loss, right? Once again, it's not easy to be financially independent in a couple months. That can take years or more to get there, but it is something to think about when you're looking at your preps, when you're looking at next year, is start to prepare for the worst. Unfortunately, not to say the worst is going to happen, right? The other side is black swan events, right? And, I hear that term a lot, both at work and, online, people talking black swan, black swan. You may not know what that means. Obviously, we're talking about a surprise, and that's really all a black swan is. The idea behind whoever coined the term black swan event basically took it as something unexpected, right? When you see a bunch of swans and you see a black swan, you're like, whoa, where'd the black swan come from? I didn't expect that. And honestly, literally, that is where the term black swan comes from. They're less common, right? And I looked it up. There's something like 50,000 black swans out there. They're not common. They're rare. They're unexpected. So you see a black swan, you get surprised. You see a black swan event, it just means something unexpected, right? Something surprising and potentially something in hindsight, you're like, of course that could have happened. Of course, black swans are real, even if you've never seen one, and then you see one, and you're like, oh my God, there it is. That's all that means. I think they've gone a little too far with the term black swan, but that's all. That's what it means. But a black swan event just means surprises, right? What's on your bingo card for 2024, your apocalypse bingo card? What slots didn't you fill out in 2022 or 2023? Certainly, pandemic could be a box on your bingo card. Civil unrest could be a box on your bingo card. What about alien invasion? I don't know. That's a little fun, a little fanciful idea, alien invasion, though there is a lot of talk about that out there as well. What about cyber attacks? What about AI? Is AI on your bingo card? There was someone I think on the kind of anonymous side of the world that recently used AI to make a video, and they're saying they've been using AI, basically saying they've been using AI as a tool to do cyber theft and cyber attacks. So certainly we will expect more of that to continue over the years, not just 2024, but as time moves on, we will see AI weaponized AI be used by nefarious individuals. So really it comes down to, right, are you prepared? Do you have your food and water? Do you have your basic covers? And do you have a bug out plan, right? We saw the fires in Maui. Certainly you need a bug out plan as well. It shouldn't be your primary plan. So wanted to get that out there. So just thinking about 2024 and wanted to jump into it, share some of my thoughts, and certainly jump in the comments. Let us know, what do you think people should have their eyes on for 2024? So thank you for watching, and we appreciate you.